Hey everyone, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Today's story is about family, sacrifice, and proving everyone wrong when they least expect it. My name is Sarah Rodriguez, and this is the story of how I went from being the veteran my family tried to disown to the CEO my own brother would eventually beg for a job. The Rodriguez family had always been about tradition. My grandfather was a factory worker, my father a local high school administrator in our small town of Millbrook, Oregon. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. And we had expectations. My older brother Michael was the golden child, straight A student, destined for business school, the one who would carry on the family's hopes and dreams. Me? I was different from the start, while Michael was collecting academic awards and planning. His future in the corporate world, I was restless. The small-town life felt suffocating. I wanted something more, something bigger than the predetermined path my family had mapped out. On my 18th birthday, against my parents' wishes, I enlisted in the United States Army. The day I told my family about my decision is etched into my memory like a scar. We were having Sunday dinner, my mother's famous pot roast on the table, the kind of meal that had been a Rodriguez family tradition for generations. I remember the silence that fell when I announced my plans. "The Army?" my father had asked, his fork suspended midair. "But you're so smart, Sarah. You could go to college. Michael is going to business school at Stanford. You have opportunities." My brother Michael had sat there with that familiar smirk. The one that said he knew better, that he was the family's pride and joy. "This is just another one of your phases," he'd said dismissively. "You'll grow out of it." But it wasn't a phase. It was a calling. My mother tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She came from a generation of women who saw military service as something distant, dangerous. "Why would you choose this?" she'd asked, her voice soft, pleading. "You could have a safe career, a predictable life." Safe wasn't in my vocabulary. 4 years of military service changed me in ways my family could never understand. I wasn't just serving my country, I was discovering myself. My unit was deployed to Afghanistan, where I worked in logistics and intelligence. It wasn't the glamorous frontline combat that movies depict, but it was crucial work. Every supply route I helped secure, every intelligence report I compiled, was a piece of the larger mission. But war doesn't just happen on battlefields. It happens inside you. I saw things that fundamentally altered my understanding of the world. I worked alongside incredible men and women who understood sacrifice in a way most people never would. We weren't just colleagues. We were a family forged in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. When I returned home after my second deployment, I was different. Not just in the ways people could see, the confident walk, the discipline, the clear-eyed focus, but in ways that ran much deeper. I had skills the Army had taught me: strategic thinking, leadership under pressure, the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. My family struggled to understand this new version of me. Michael had been building his corporate career, climbing the ranks at a mid-sized tech firm in Portland. He'd married his college sweetheart, had 2 kids, bought a house in the suburbs. The perfect picture of success, at least by our family's traditional standards. I was still finding my way. Using my GI Bill, I started taking business classes at the local community college. My military experience had shown me that leadership wasn't about titles or traditional paths. It was about understanding people, solving complex problems, creating value. The tension with my family grew with each passing year. They loved me, but they didn't understand me. Every family gathering felt like a subtle interrogation. "When are you going to settle down?" my mother would ask. "Have you thought about a more stable career?" my father would suggest. Michael was always there with his not-so-subtle commentary. "Not everyone is cut out for corporate life," he'd say, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people are better suited to following orders than giving them. I smiled and kept my mouth shut. But inside, I was building something. A plan. A vision. Little did my family know that my military training was preparing me for a transformation they could never have anticipated. The skills I'd learned, resilience, strategic thinking, the ability to build and lead teams, were about to become my greatest assets. My father's sudden heart attack would be the catalyst that changed everything. The day he passed, our family's carefully constructed world began to crack, and Michael, who had always positioned himself as the family's savior, would soon discover that the sister he had consistently underestimated was about to rewrite everything he thought he knew about success, leadership, and family. But that's a story for the next part. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The funeral was a study in family dynamics, grief mixed with unspoken tensions, years of complicated relationships laid bare under the weight of loss. My father's modest life insurance and small retirement fund became the first battleground. Michael took charge immediately, as he always did. "I'll handle the estate," he announced during the initial meeting with our family lawyer. His tone brooked no argument. "As the eldest, it's my responsibility to manage everything." I sat quietly, watching. The Sarah from before my military service might have challenged him. But years of military training had taught me patience, strategy. Sometimes the most powerful move is observation. Our mother, still shell-shocked from losing her husband, nodded weakly. "Michael knows best," she murmured, a phrase I'd heard countless times growing up. What Michael didn't know was that my father had made a decision that would change everything. Buried in the legal documents was a surprise, a small business my father had started years ago, barely mentioned during his lifetime, a consulting firm focused on veteran employment and small business development, Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. A modest name for what would become my lifeline. The business was barely operational. Just a few contracts, some initial paperwork, and a vision my father had nursed quietly for years. Most families would have seen it as worthless. Michael certainly did. "We'll just liquidate it," he told the lawyer. "No point in keeping a failing venture running." Something inside me sparked. This wasn't just about money. This was about my father's dream. About veterans who needed support. My mentor from the military, Colonel Elizabeth Harriman, called me the week after the funeral. We'd stayed in touch over the years. She was more than a superior officer. She was the first person who truly saw my potential. "I heard about your father," she said, her voice direct and compassionate. "How are you holding up?" I told her about the business, about Michael's plans to shut it down. Colonel Harriman was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her words were calculated and precise. "That business could be something, Sarah, but it needs someone who understands both business and the veteran experience. Someone who can see potential where others see only obstacles." She connected me with a network of veteran entrepreneurs, small business advisors who had transformed similar consulting firms into powerful organizations. Each conversation opened my eyes to possibilities Michael couldn't see. One conversation stood out. Jennifer Rodriguez, no relation, had built a multi-million-dollar veteran support network from what started as a small job placement service. "The key," she told me, "is understanding that we're not just placing veterans in jobs. We're helping them transition, find purpose, rebuild their lives." Michael, of course, had other plans. He wanted to quickly settle the estate, sell off any assets, and return to his comfortable suburban life in Portland. Our mother, still grieving, deferred to him completely. "The business is worth almost nothing," he told me during a tense family meeting. "I've had it appraised. We're better off selling everything and splitting the proceeds." But I had been gathering information, talking to veterans, understanding the potential of my father's vision. The contracts weren't just pieces of paper, they were relationships, hopes, potential. Colonel Harriman's advice echoed in my mind. Know your worth. Know the worth of what you're fighting for. I discovered something Michael hadn't. My father had been building relationships with local businesses, creating a unique model of veteran employment that went beyond simple job placement. He wasn't just finding jobs. He was creating pathways for veterans to rebuild their lives, to find purpose after service. The turning point came during a meeting with one of my father's longest-standing clients, a manufacturing plant owner who had hired multiple veterans through the consulting firm. Your father understood something most businesses don't, he told me. Veterans aren't looking for charity. They're looking for opportunity, meaningful work, a chance to continue serving in a different way. Michael saw a failing business. I saw a mission. The legal battle was inevitable. Michael wanted to liquidate everything quickly. I wanted to honor our father's vision. Our mother, caught in the middle, was torn between her children. Why are you being so difficult? Michael would ask, his frustration growing with each passing week. This is about being practical. But for me, it was about something much deeper, about honoring a legacy, about supporting veterans who had sacrificed everything. Colonel Harriman's final piece of advice became my mantra. The most powerful weapon you have is your ability to see what others cannot. Your perspective is your greatest strength. As the weeks turned into months, I began to see a path forward, not just for the business, but for myself. The skills I'd learned in the military, strategic planning, team building, resource management, were precisely what this small consulting firm needed. Michael continued to push for a quick resolution. But each day, I was building something. Quietly, strategically. The Rodriguez family was about to undergo a transformation none of us could have predicted, and I was just getting started. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The legal battle over my father's business was just the beginning. Michael thought he could steamroll me with legal jargon and family pressure. He was about to learn that military training teaches you more than just how to follow orders. It teaches you how to strategically overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. I spent months preparing. Every evening after work, every weekend, I dove deep into the business my father had started. Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises wasn't just a company. It was a lifeline for veterans transitioning back to civilian life. Each contract, each relationship, my father had built, told a story of hope and opportunity. Colonel Harriman introduced me to a network of veteran business advisors and lawyers who understood the unique challenges we faced. Pro bono support from veterans who believed in our mission became my secret weapon. They helped me understand the legal intricacies Michael thought would be my downfall. The first major turning point came during a mediation session. Michael arrived, with his corporate lawyer, dressed in an expensive suit, exuding confidence. I wore my dress blues, a deliberate choice that spoke volumes about my commitment and identity. "This is ridiculous," Michael muttered as I laid out a comprehensive business plan. "You have no business experience." But I had something more valuable. I had a vision, and I had data. Through my connections, I'd secured preliminary contracts with 3 major corporations looking to expand their veteran hiring programs. These weren't just theoretical possibilities. They were solid opportunities that showed the true potential of Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. The mediation room fell silent as I presented my findings. Detailed market research, projected growth, a strategic plan that transformed my father's small consulting firm into a potential powerhouse of veteran employment services. Michael's lawyer looked uncomfortable. The mediator, a retired judge who had worked with veteran support programs, listened intently. "These numbers are impressive," he said, reviewing my documents. "Ms. Rodriguez, you've clearly done your homework." But Michael wasn't done fighting. He knew the family dynamics were his strongest weapon. "Mom," he said, turning to our mother, "Sarah has no idea how to run a business. This is just another one of her impulsive ideas." Our mother looked torn. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the desire to support her children, the grief of losing her husband, the fear of the unknown. The real battle, I realized, wasn't just about the business. It was about proving my worth, about showing that my military service wasn't a detour, but a critical part of my professional identity. Colonel Harriman's words echoed in my mind. "Your experiences are your greatest asset. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." I brought in veterans who had been helped by my father's original consulting firm, testimonials that transformed cold statistics into human stories, a Marine who had found purpose after struggling with PTSD, a Navy veteran who started her own small business, a former Army mechanic who found a breakthrough engineering job. Each story was a testament to what Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises could become. The turning point came unexpectedly. During a particularly heated negotiation, Michael accused me of being naive, of not understanding the real world of business. "You've been playing soldier," he said, "but this is about real money, real business." Something inside me snapped. Not with anger, but with a cold, calculated determination. I pulled out my deployment records, my commendations, the strategic reports I'd written that had saved lives and resources. I showed him the leadership recommendations from my commanding officers, the additional business certifications I'd earned while serving. "This is the real world you're talking about," I said quietly. The room went silent. My mother looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Not as the rebellious daughter who had chosen a different path, but as a capable, intelligent woman who had served her country and was now fighting for her father's legacy. The mediator recommended a compromise. I would be given 6 months to prove the viability of the business. If I could demonstrate growth and financial stability, I would retain full control of Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. Michael agreed, confident I would fail. He saw it as a small concession, a way to humor me while ultimately getting what he wanted. He had no idea what was coming. The day the agreement was signed, Colonel Harriman called me. "Are you ready?" She asked. "More than ready," I replied. The next 6 months would be the most challenging and transformative of my life. I was about to turn a small consulting firm into something Michael could never have imagined. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The 6-month countdown began with a level of intensity that would have terrified most people. But I wasn't most people. I was a veteran. I understood that success wasn't about grand gestures, but about consistent strategic action. My first move was to completely restructure Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. What had been a small, struggling consulting firm would become a comprehensive veteran support ecosystem. I reached out to every contact I'd made during my military service, every mentor who had believed in me, every veteran I'd served alongside. Colonel Harriman connected me with a network of veteran entrepreneurs and business leaders. Each conversation was a masterclass in transformation. Jennifer Rodriguez, the veteran entrepreneur I'd spoken with earlier, became my unofficial business coach. "The key," she told me, "is to solve problems nobody else is solving." I identified 3 critical gaps in veteran employment services: comprehensive skills translation, mental health support during career transitions, long-term professional development. Most employment services treated veterans like a checkbox. Get them a job and move on. I wanted to create something different. A holistic approach that recognized veterans as complex, skilled individuals with unique experiences and challenges. The first month was about rebuilding our infrastructure. I converted my father's small office into a dynamic workspace. Veterans, who came for job placement found more than just employment assistance. They found a community. We developed a proprietary skills translation program. Military experience doesn't always translate easily to civilian job markets. I knew this firsthand. My logistics and intelligence work in the Army seemed worlds apart from corporate America. But I understood the underlying skills. Strategic planning, team leadership, crisis management were incredibly valuable. Our first major breakthrough came through an unexpected partnership. A progressive tech company in Portland was struggling to understand how to effectively recruit and retain veteran talent. They saw veterans as a potential workforce, but didn't know how to bridge the cultural gap. I proposed a comprehensive program, not just recruitment, but full integration. Training for both veterans and existing employees about bridging military and civilian work cultures. Mental health support, mentorship programs. The tech company was skeptical at first. Michael would have given up. But I had learned patience in some of the most challenging environments imaginable. Our pilot program with the tech company became a case study in veteran employment success. Veterans placed through our program had significantly higher retention rates. They weren't just getting jobs, they were finding careers, purpose, community. Word spread quickly. Other companies started calling. Our small consulting firm was becoming something much larger. But success was never going to come easily. Michael wasn't sitting idle. He began spreading rumors within our family network, suggesting that I was playing with our father's legacy, that I was going to run the business into the ground. Our mother, still uncertain, would call me periodically with concern in her voice. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" she would ask. Each challenge became an opportunity to prove my vision. I brought in veteran psychologists to develop our mental health support programs. We created a mentorship network that connected veterans across industries. Our approach wasn't just about finding jobs, it was about holistic career and life transformation. The financial numbers began to tell a story Michael couldn't ignore. Our revenue started to climb. Contracts expanded. The 6-month timeline became less about survival and more about how far we could push the boundaries of veteran support. Colonel Harriman visited our office 3 months into the transformation. She walked through the space, speaking with the team, reviewing our programs. "Your father would be proud," she told me quietly. It wasn't just about proving Michael wrong. It was about honoring my father's original vision, about creating something meaningful that would support veterans long after I was gone. Our breakthrough came unexpectedly. A major national corporation heard about our work and wanted a comprehensive veteran hiring and integration program. This wasn't just another contract. This was validation of everything we'd been building. The proposal I developed was unlike anything in the veteran employment space. We weren't just placing people in jobs. We were creating a comprehensive ecosystem of support, skill development, and professional growth. When the contract was signed, I called my mother, not to gloat, not to prove a point, but to share a moment of genuine connection. "Dad would have loved this," I told her. There was a pause. Then, for the first time since the funeral, I heard something in her voice I hadn't heard in years. Pride. Michael would soon learn that the sister he had tried to sideline was about to become something he never expected. The 6-month countdown was almost over, and everything was about to change. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The final month of my 6-month probation arrived like a storm. Everything I had built could still come crashing down. Michael made his move, precisely as I knew he would. He had connections. Deep, powerful business connections that could destroy Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises with a single phone call. The attack came from multiple fronts. First, a series of negative reports about our business practices. Carefully crafted documents suggesting we were mismanaging veteran resources, professional-looking reports filled with half-truths and strategic omissions. I recognized the tactics immediately. This wasn't just about the business. This was personal. My legal team, veterans themselves, began tracing the source of these reports. Each document was a calculated attempt to undermine our credibility. Corporate espionage disguised as due diligence. The timing was deliberate. Just weeks before the final evaluation that would determine the future of Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. Michael was pulling out all the stops. One evening, a veteran who had been placed in a tech company through our program called me. Marcus Rodriguez, no relation, but a Marine who had struggled with PTSD after his service. Someone's been asking questions, he told me, digging into our placement program, trying to find weaknesses. I knew exactly who was behind it. The psychological warfare was intense. Our major corporate contract began to waver. Meetings were canceled. Communications became terse. I could see Michael's handiwork in every hesitation, every sudden change of tone. But I had learned something, crucial in the military. The most important battles are often won before the first shot is fired. I called in every favor, every connection I had made during my service, every veteran I had helped, every business leader who believed in our mission. Colonel Harriman's network became my greatest asset. She connected me with veteran business owners who had faced similar challenges. Each conversation was a strategic planning session. He's trying to create doubt, Jennifer Rodriguez told me during a late-night strategy call. Doubt is the most powerful weapon in business destruction. I began to document everything, every communication, every attempt to undermine our work. My military intelligence training kicked in. This wasn't just defense. This was gathering evidence. Week before the final evaluation, the attacks intensified. A major tech blog published a hit piece questioning our veteran placement success rates. The article was meticulously researched and entirely misleading. I knew Michael's fingerprints were all over it. Our mental health support program became a particular target. Articles suggested we were exploiting veteran vulnerabilities, completely false narratives designed to create maximum damage. But each attack revealed more about Michael than about our business. I brought in independent auditors, veteran-owned firms with impeccable reputations. They would review every aspect of our operations. Transparency became our shield. The night before the final evaluation, I received a call from our mother. Her voice was different. Uncertain. Worried. Michael says you're going to lose everything, she said. That you're destroying Dad's legacy. I listened carefully. Not with anger, but with the strategic patience I had learned in some of the most challenging environments imaginable. Mom, I said quietly, I'm protecting Dad's legacy, not destroying it. She was silent for a moment. Then, almost inaudibly, I hope you're right. The final evaluation would be a crucible. Everything I had, built, everything I believed in, hanging in the balance. I thought about the veterans we had helped. Marcus, who had found purpose after struggling with PTSD. The countless others who had found more than just jobs, who had found hope. This wasn't just about a business. This was about a mission. My team gathered the night before the evaluation. Veterans from every branch, business professionals who believed in our vision. We weren't just preparing for a review. We were preparing to prove something fundamental about veteran potential. Colonel Harriman's words echoed in my mind. Your greatest strength is your ability to see what others cannot. I had seen potential where Michael saw only failure. I had built a support system where he saw only a burden. The next morning would determine everything. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The evaluation day arrived, with a precision that felt almost military in its execution. Our entire team had prepared for months, but the weight of everything we'd built hung in the air like fog over a battlefield. The review board was composed of 5 professionals, 2 veterans, 3 corporate executives with a reputation for rigorous analysis. They arrived at our offices at precisely 8 a.m., clipboards and tablets in hand, expressions neutral and unreadable. I wore my dress blues, a deliberate choice. Not a costume, but a statement. Every medal, every patch told. A story of service, of commitment. The morning began with a comprehensive review of our financials. Michael had done his work. Every number would be scrutinized, every decimal point examined. I knew this. We had prepared accordingly. Our financial team, led by Maria Gonzalez, a Navy veteran with an MBA from Stanford, walked them through our numbers. Not just spreadsheets, but stories. Each contract, each placement represented a veteran's life transformed. "Look beyond the numbers," Maria said, her voice steady. "These are human stories, not just data points." The board members exchanged glances. They were used to corporate presentations that disguised humanity behind financial jargon. We were offering something different. I brought in veterans who had gone through our program. Marcus, the Marine who had struggled with PTSD, spoke about his journey. How our mental health support program had been more than just a job placement service. How it had helped him rediscover his purpose. Another veteran, Elena Rodriguez, an Army logistics specialist, shared how our skills translation program had helped her transition from military logistics to a senior supply chain management role at a Fortune 500 company. Each testimony was a weapon against Michael's attempts to discredit us. The most critical moment came during the lunch break. One of the board members, a retired Air Force colonel, pulled me aside. "Your brother has been very vocal," he said quietly, "claiming this is a vanity project, that you're destroying your father's legacy." I didn't hesitate. My father believed in supporting veterans, not just with jobs, but with comprehensive support, opportunity, dignity. He studied me for a long moment, the kind of look that cuts through all pretense. "Show me," he said simply. The afternoon was a deep dive into our programs, our skills translation methodology, our mental health support network, the partnerships we'd developed with corporations looking to truly integrate veteran talent. We weren't just a job placement service, we were a complete veteran support ecosystem. Midway through the presentation, my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Michael is here," it read, "waiting in the lobby." I knew what this meant. He was preparing to create a scene, to undermine everything at the last moment. The final presentation became more than a business review. It was a mission statement. A declaration of what veteran support could look like when done with genuine commitment. As we wrapped up, the board requested a private deliberation. Our team waited. Veterans who had transformed their lives through our program. Business professionals who believed in our mission. An hour passed. Then 2. Michael paced in the lobby. I could imagine his frustration, his certainty that he was about to win. When the board finally emerged, their expressions were unreadable. The retired Air Force colonel spoke first. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said, "your father would be proud." Those words hit me harder than any enemy fire ever could, but the full details of their decision would have to wait. Michael approached, his expensive suit a stark contrast to the veterans around him. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "this ends today." I met his gaze. Calm. Determined. The next few moments would change everything. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed. Because, trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The board's decision would change everything, but not in the way anyone expected. Michael's confidence began to crack visibly as the review board's deliberations extended into the evening. What he had anticipated would be a quick dismantling of Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises had turned into something entirely different. The retired Air Force colonel who had spoken to me earlier emerged first. Behind him, the other board members looked animated, engaged in intense conversation. This wasn't the perfunctory dismissal Michael had engineered. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said, "we'd like to speak with you privately." The conference room felt different. Gone was the clinical atmosphere of a business review. This felt like a mission briefing. The lead corporate executive, a woman with steel in her eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, spoke first. "Your approach is unprecedented," she said. "We've never seen a veteran support service this comprehensive." They laid out their findings. Our financial models were sound. Our placement success rates were not just good, they were revolutionary. The mental health support program we'd developed was being viewed as a potential template for other veteran support organizations nationwide. But it was more than numbers. They understood what we were truly building. Michael waited in the lobby, his expensive watch ticking away minutes that felt like hours. I could see the tension in his posture, the way he checked his phone, made calls, tried to create some last-minute intervention. The board's recommendation would be transformative, not just for Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises, but potentially for how corporations approach veteran employment nationwide. When I emerged from the conference room, Michael intercepted me immediately. "What did they say?" he demanded, his carefully maintained corporate composure slipping. I didn't give him the satisfaction of an immediate response. Our mother arrived shortly after, worry etched across her face. The family dynamics that had defined us for so long were about to be fundamentally altered. The board's recommendation was both a validation and a challenge. They didn't just approve our current model, they wanted us to expand, rapidly, strategically. "We believe Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises has the potential to become a national leader in veteran support services," the Air Force colonel had told me. "But you'll need resources, infrastructure." Michael heard the news like a physical blow. The business he had tried to dismantle was about to receive significant institutional backing. Venture capital firms interested in social impact had been watching our review. The board's recommendation would open doors Michael couldn't imagine. Our mother listened as the details were explained. I watched her face change. The worry, the uncertainty, it began to transform into something else. Pride, understanding. "Your father always believed in supporting veterans," she said quietly. "But he never knew how to make it happen on a large scale." The irony wasn't lost on me. Michael had tried to destroy what our father had started. Instead, he had inadvertently created the conditions for its most significant transformation. That evening, a family dinner was called. Not by me, not by Michael, but by our mother. The Rodriguez family dynamic was about to be rewritten. Michael arrived first, still in his corporate suit. I wore my dress blues, a deliberate choice, a statement about who I was, who I had become. "This is ridiculous," Michael muttered as we sat down. "A family dinner to discuss a business review?" Our mother silenced him with a look I had never seen her use before. The strength that had always been there, hidden beneath years of supporting others, was finally emerging. The conversation was unlike any we'd had before. No pretense, no hidden agendas. I laid out the full vision, not just for the business, but for what supporting veterans could truly mean, how our work could transform lives, create opportunities, build bridges between military and civilian worlds. Michael listened, really listened. For the first time, I saw something crack in his professional armor, a recognition, not of defeat, but of something larger. The board's recommendation came with a challenge. We would need to scale rapidly, build infrastructure, create a national network of veteran support that went beyond job placement. "We're looking at potentially transforming how corporations approach veteran hiring," I explained. "Not just filling positions, but creating genuine pathways to success. Our mother asked questions, intelligent, probing. The woman who had always deferred to others was finding her voice. Michael's resistance began to change, not immediately, not completely, but a shift was happening. The final blow came when the board's full report was released, not just to our family, but publicly. Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises was being highlighted as a model for veteran support. Major corporations were already reaching out. Venture capital firms were interested in our expansion. The business Michael had tried to destroy was about to become something much larger than he could have imagined. As the evening concluded, our mother made a decision that would have been unthinkable months earlier. "I want to be part of this," she said, looking directly at me. "Not just as a mother, but as a partner." Michael said nothing. But I saw something in his eyes. Not defeat, but a grudging respect. The Rodriguez family was changing. And nothing would be the same again. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of transformation that would have been impossible to imagine just a year earlier. Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises wasn't just growing, we were revolutionizing how corporations approached veteran employment and support. The board's recommendation had been more than an approval. It was a catalyst for something much larger. Major tech companies began approaching us, not just for recruitment, but for comprehensive veteran integration programs. We weren't just placing veterans in jobs. We were creating entire ecosystems of support, professional development, and career advancement. Michael watched from the sidelines, his initial resistance morphing into something more complex. Not quite acceptance, but a grudging recognition of what we were building. Our mother became an unexpected ally. The woman who had always been in the background was now actively involved in the business. Her understanding of community networks, her ability to connect with people became a critical asset. "I never thought I understood business," she told me one evening. "But supporting people? That's something I've always known how to do." The mental health support program we'd developed became a model that other veteran support organizations wanted to replicate. We weren't just helping veterans find jobs. We were helping them find purpose, healing, community. Marcus, the Marine who had shared his PTSD journey, became a key spokesperson. His story of transformation resonated far beyond our initial expectations. Speaking engagements, media, interviews, national conferences, he became the face of what genuine veteran support could look like. The financial numbers told a story of incredible growth. But more importantly, the human stories were transformative. Veterans who had struggled to find their place in civilian life were now leading teams, starting their own businesses, creating change in ways they never thought possible. Our expansion wasn't just about size. It was about depth, quality, genuine support. The turning point came unexpectedly during a national veteran employment conference. I was invited to give the keynote address. Not just as a business leader, but as a veteran who understood the true challenges of transition. Michael attended, not as a supporter, but as an observer. My speech wasn't about numbers. It was about purpose, about the incredible potential of veterans who are given genuine opportunities. "We are not defined by our challenges," I told the packed auditorium. "We are defined by our ability to transform those challenges into strengths." The standing ovation was unexpected, but the real impact was in the conversations that followed. Corporate leaders, veteran support organizations, government representatives, all wanting to understand our approach. Colonel Harriman was there, watching, proud. "Your father would have been amazed," she told me later, "not just by what you've built, but by how you've built it." The business world was changing, and Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises was leading that change. Our mother's involvement brought a dimension we hadn't anticipated. Her connections in the local community, Her understanding of human networks became a critical asset. She began developing programs that supported not just veterans, but their families. Transition isn't just about the veteran, she would say. It's about the entire support system. Michael's perspective began to shift. Subtly, slowly. One evening he called me, not to argue, not to challenge, but to understand. "How did you do this?" he asked. The question wasn't accusatory, it was genuine. I told him the truth, about the veterans we'd helped, about the mission our father had started, about the potential that exists when you look beyond traditional business metrics. He listened. Really listened. The board that had initially reviewed our business now became active partners. They weren't just investors. They were believers in our mission. Venture capital firms that specialized in social impact began approaching us. They saw what we were building as more than a business. It was a movement. Our expansion wasn't just national. We began developing international partnerships. Veterans' challenges are global. Our support model could transcend borders. The Rodriguez family dinner table became a strategy session. Our mother, who had once been silent, now contributed insights that were reshaping our approach. Michael, who had tried to shut down the business, now found himself asking questions, wanting to understand, to be part of something larger than himself. Colonel Harriman's network became our extended family. Veterans who had transformed their lives became our most powerful advocates. The business Michael had seen as a liability was now being recognized as a potential national model for veteran support. During a board meeting, the retired Air Force colonel, who had been crucial in our initial review, made a statement that would have been unimaginable months earlier. "Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises is no longer just a business," he said. "It's a blueprint for how we support those who have served." Our expansion continued, but it was never about growth for growth's sake. It was about genuine support, about creating pathways, about honoring the service of those who had given everything. The Rodriguez family was no longer defined by our differences. We were united by a mission larger than ourselves, and we were just getting started. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. 1 year after the board's initial review, Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises was unrecognizable from the small consulting firm my father had started. We were now a national leader in veteran support services, but more than that, we had become a movement, a reimagining of how society could support those who had served. The annual Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises Gala was more than just a business event. It was a celebration of transformation. Veterans who had gone through our program shared their stories, not just professional success, but personal healing, rediscovering purpose, rebuilding lives. Michael stood beside me, no longer the antagonist but a supporter, not because he had to be, but because he now understood the mission. Our mother, who had once been hesitant and uncertain, now spoke with the confidence of someone who understood the true value of what we were building. She had become our most powerful advocate, developing programs that supported veteran families in ways no one had before. Colonel Harriman, my mentor, looked on with a pride that went beyond professional accomplishment. She saw the culmination of a vision that many had dismissed as impossible. The awards came, national recognition, corporate partnerships that went beyond traditional hiring programs. We weren't just placing veterans in jobs, we were changing how corporations understood veteran potential. Marcus, the Marine who had shared his PTSD journey, was now leading our mental health support division. His story of transformation had become a beacon of hope for veterans struggling with transition. But the most powerful moment came unexpectedly. A young veteran approached me during the gala. She was nervous, uncertain. Her story was familiar. Struggling to find purpose after service, feeling disconnected from civilian life. "I heard you speak," she told me. And for the first time, I felt like someone understood. Those moments made everything worthwhile. The business metrics were impressive, but the human stories, those were our true measure of success. Michael, who had once tried to dismantle everything our father had started, now understood the deeper mission. He had become not just a supporter, but a true believer in what we were building. "Dad would be proud," he said to me during the gala. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of our entire journey. Our mother had become the heart of our organization. Her programs supporting veteran families were revolutionizing how we understood veteran transition. It wasn't just about the veteran. It was about their entire support system. Colonel Harriman pulled me aside during the event. "You've done more than build a business," she said. "You've created a community, a way of supporting those who have served that goes beyond traditional models, the GI." National media had begun to take notice, feature articles, documentaries. Our approach was being studied as a potential model for veteran support nationwide. But it was never about the recognition. It was about the veterans, about giving them more than just a job, about giving them a purpose, a path forward. As the gala wound down, I looked around the room. Veterans from every branch, families who had supported their loved ones through challenging transitions, corporate leaders who had become true believers in veteran potential. This was more than a business success. This was a family legacy transformed. Michael approached me as the event concluded. "We should talk," he said, "about expanding internationally." The brother who had once tried to shut down our father's small consulting firm was now talking about global expansion. Life has a way of coming full circle. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The Rodriguez family gathering felt different now. What was once a source of tension had become a celebration of our shared journey. Our father's old study, the room where he had first dreamed of supporting veterans, was now a memorial and inspiration. Photographs documented our transformation. The small consulting firm's initial paperwork hung alongside national awards. Corporate recognition plaques sat next to military commendations. Michael had become more than just a supporter. He was now actively involved in our international expansion strategy. The brother who had once tried to shut down our father's dream was now helping build a global veteran support network. "I was wrong," he admitted during one family strategy session. The words didn't come easily, but they came with genuine understanding. Our mother had become the soul of Rodriguez Veteran Enterprises. Her programs supporting veteran families had become a national model. She understood something fundamental that most organizations missed. Supporting a veteran meant supporting their entire ecosystem. "Transition isn't just about employment," she would say during her speaking engagements. "It's about rebuilding purpose, about healing, about recognizing the incredible potential of those who have served." Colonel Harriman continued to be our guiding force, not just a mentor, but a true believer in our mission. She had seen countless veterans struggle with transition. Our approach was changing that narrative. The international expansion brought challenges we hadn't anticipated. Different countries, different military structures, different cultural approaches to veteran support. But our core mission remained unchanged: support, purpose, transformation. Our first international partnership came through an unexpected connection. A veteran support organization in Australia reached out, intrigued by our holistic approach. They wanted to understand our mental health support model, our skills translation programs. Marcus, the Marine who had shared his PTSD journey, became our international spokesperson. His story resonated globally. The challenges of military transition were universal. The business world was changing. Corporate leaders were beginning to understand that veterans brought unique skills, strategic thinking, leadership under pressure, the ability to perform in challenging environments. During a global veteran support conference, I shared our journey. Not just as a business success story, but as a testament to what's possible when you look beyond traditional limitations. We are not defined by our challenges, I told the international audience. We are defined by our ability to transform those challenges into strengths. The standing ovation wasn't just for me. It was for every veteran who had found a new path, who had rediscovered purpose. Michael's involvement brought a different dimension to our expansion. His corporate background, combined with our mission-driven approach, created a powerful combination. I used to think business was just about profit, he told me during a strategy meeting. Now I understand it's about impact. Our mother developed programs that went beyond employment, supporting veteran families, creating mental health resources, building community support networks. The Rodriguez family dinner table had become a global strategy session. Conversations about veteran support that would have been unimaginable years ago were now our normal. Colonel Harriman watched our transformation with a pride that went beyond professional accomplishment. She saw the culmination of a vision many had dismissed as impossible. Your father started something, she told me, but you've turned it into a movement. The financial success was significant, but it was never about the money. It was about the lives transformed, the veterans who found new purpose, families reconnected, potential realized. Our mental health support program became a global model. Universities began studying our approach. Government agencies sought our insights. Marcus, who had once struggled with PTSD, now led our global mental health initiatives. His journey from struggle to leadership became a beacon of hope for veterans worldwide. The Rodriguez family had become more than just a business. We were a global community of support, of transformation. During one of our international strategy sessions, Michael looked at me with a newfound respect. Dad would have been amazed, he said. The brother who had once tried to shut down our father's dream was now helping build a global veteran support network. Our expansion continued, but it was never about growth for growth's sake. It was about genuine support, about creating pathways, about honoring the service of those who had given everything. The Rodriguez family was no longer defined by our differences. We were united by a mission larger than ourselves. As I looked around the room, at Michael, our mother, the team of veterans and supporters we had built, I realized we had created something far beyond a business. We had created a legacy. Testament to what's possible when you believe in people, when you see potential where others see only challenges. Our father's small consulting firm had become a global movement of support, transformation, and hope, and we were just getting started. If this story is hitting home for you, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.